So my name is Vishnu Chaudhary, and I'll be your instructor for the whole Microsoft Fabric training. If we go further, and this is about me. Like I have overall close to 10 years of experience, and in which mostly like I have worked on data only. Like started his career as a ETL developer and then moved to Azure, and from the last, I think almost close to 1.5 years, I've been working on Fabric, and also been provided trainings on that. And these are the like domains and technologies in which I have expertise. And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on either on LinkedIn and Gmail. And I've started a YouTube channel, I think 2 years back, but from the last 1 year, I'm not able to get time to put videos. Especially this channel was for Fabric only. Okay. You should at least know SQL. Power BI, anyway, I'm going to cover for at least we'll have 5 sessions, basics of Power BI. Okay. So these are the concept we'll learn before starting Microsoft Fabric. Like what is a staging area, what is a reporting layer, and we'll learn about Medallion architecture, like what exactly is it, and what are the slowly changing dimensions, and we'll have some basics idea about fact and dimensions also, not in detail, but you should have a basic idea about this, and what is a lake house, what is a warehouse, what is a data lake, and also we'll see a difference between star and snowflake schema. Okay, then this we will learn in between learning the Microsoft Fabric. Okay, so this is what we will learn in our Microsoft Fabric session. Just a second. Okay, these are the some high level topics I put it here, but all of this will learn in detail. Okay, what is like first will be the how you can create your Fabric account, like a free Fabric account. Okay, then we'll have what is workspace. Wow, you can create different items within a workspace. What is a lake house? We'll learn in detail about the lake house. Then we'll learn about notebook. So this will be the main part, like learning about the PySpark, Spark SQL. So we'll at least spend 8 to 9 days learning about Spark. Okay, so we'll learn some basics of Spark, some advanced concept of Spark. Okay, generally PySpark and Spark SQL, we need at least 2 to 3 months to learn it, but I'll try to cover as much as possible about Spark within like 8 to 9 to 10 sessions. Okay, we'll have for that, because you should know about PySpark when you're working with Fabric, because the data transmission and all that stuff which we do in a lakehouse will be required notebook hands-on. Okay, then we'll learn about warehouse also, what are the semantic model. Then in the data pipeline we'll learn about at least for 10 to 15 activities, and the main activity is a copy activity which we'll learn. Then we'll learn about data flow gen 2, data flow gen 1, and shortcuts to the ADLS locations, S3 locations, and then shortcuts to the lake house, as well as like from the lake house you can shortcut to the warehouse also, from warehouse to the lake house also. And we'll also design some framework. So there will be two kinds of a framework which we'll design. Let's suppose you have a data source from which you need to pull multiple tables using a single pipeline. Okay, so we'll learn that, and as well as we'll design a framework where you can read files from different locations just using a single notebook or single pipeline. Okay, and then you can load the data for that. Okay, and we'll learn about how you can do the incremental load in a lake house, in a warehouse, and we'll have idea about how you can get the data from a REST API, getting the access token, and then reading the JSON and converting into either to the file or to the table, delta table. Okay, and again, I think I've repeated that. So this is framework, and we'll build the framework. So, and we'll learn about Power BI basics. So this will be at least of 5 days of session, and this security as access will be at the workspace level, lakehouse level, warehouse level. These security and access we will learn, and we'll do a end-to-end real-time project which I have implemented recently for a client. Okay, so it will be like as uh, so I'm kind of getting the data from different sources and building a lakehouse and then building the reports. Same kind of project will do for our trading. And this Azure DevOps integration is like, okay, let me. So we'll learn how you can kind of set up your Azure DevOps and integrate your environment, Fabric environment with Azure DevOps. And this deployment pipeline is Fabric deployment pipeline. Okay, not Azure deployment pipeline, because Azure deployment pipelines learning at least you need 2 to 3 months. Okay, this Fabric deployment pipeline is a manual pipeline which will load the data from your dev to test to prod, but it will be a manual pipeline. Okay, and bonus will be we'll learn about mirroring of the databases like Snowflake, Databricks, or Azure SQL DB, and we'll learn about the real-time hub also like event streaming, yeah, or event house, KQL database, and some basics of KQL query as well. Okay, and I'll guide you about clearing of the DB600 and 700. For DB600, you should have an in-depth kind of a knowledge on base Power BI. So I provide you the basics of Power BI. Then again, you need to clear some of your theoretical concepts for DP600, but DP700 you will be able to cover through all of this. Okay, because this is all hands-on. So DB700, all the topics which I'm covering here, and for DB600 you will need some base theoretical concept needs to be clear. Okay, this is all which we will cover in our fabric. And okay, so what exactly and what I'm not covering. Okay, so you might be confused with this one. What I'm not covering, I can just simply go here. So this DevOps is not infrastructure set up for automatic deployment pipeline. So we'll not learn automatic deployment. Okay, this is not covered in this session. What I'm covering, we'll set up Azure DevOps like repo and branch. Then this Fabric dev or test, or you can say. So I'll guide you how you can version your code in dev environment. Okay, that's it. And for this dev to test to prod, there is one way. You build automated deployment pipeline, which we are not going to do because this required at least 2 to 3 months of learning about Azure DevOps. Okay, so what we will learn, we have dev deployment, Fabric deployment pipeline in Fabric. So we'll use that to move the code from dev to test to prod. Okay, is that clear? So we are not going to learn about automatic deployment pipeline, which required in-depth knowledge of DevOps. Okay, which is generally done by infrastructure team. Data engineer doesn't do it. Data engineers just develop all the things. They put the code in the repo and branches, and from that, the infrastructure or DevOps developer build the pipeline to move it further. But we'll learn about at least how you can do it through manual way, which is Fabric deployment pipeline. Okay. Now in Spark, what I'm covering all the basics things which you required, like about PySpark, Spark SQL, and your Delta table API also. This I'll cover, and some basics plus advanced concept also, optimization techniques. Again, this Spark PySpark also required 2 to 3 months of learning, but I'm trying my best to put everything in place which I have learned over the years, so that you can get an idea about it, which in will be in 10 days at least. Okay, I'll try to cover as much as possible. Okay, now considering the part where some of you doesn't know SQL, so if you are planning to attend this session, I'll guide you. At least you can learn about what is database, how you can uh, create your table, or like what is a database and what is a schema, what's the difference between them, how you can create a table, how you can write select query, delete query, and update query, and drop, delete, and merge statement. So merge I'll cover, but at least if you can cover these things, that will be good. Okay. And about Power BI, will have at least 5 to 6 sessions where we'll learn about Power Query plus DAX plus some like reporting techniques plus building reports, or you can build a report, plus some optimization kind of techniques which you can apply at Power BI service. So these things which I'll cover. Okay. So there is lot of things need to cover in Power BI. For that also you require at least 2 to 3 months. But I'm trying to cover things in 5 to 6 days, because our Fabric session will be of 40 to 45 working days. Okay, which is of 2 months. Okay, so mostly our focus will be on Fabric. So what are the things required to learn Fabric is your SQL, PySpark, and if you're working as a kind of a like Fabric analytical engineer, then you also need Power BI. And if you're working as a Fabric data engineer, you need these two things. Okay, and for analytical engineer, you need this and this. But I'm trying to cover 600 plus 7 DP 600 plus 700. So that's why I'm covering these things. And also you need some basic idea about Python. What is classes? What is Python? Oh, sorry. Mm, What is functions and string? And then you can say data types. You can say, and some data structures, inbuilt data structure. It's not like learning hard code, which is list and data dictionary. sorry, not data dictionary, list and dictionary, and then loop, which is for loop, and data frame. What is data frame? So if you can learn this, I'll also guide you this data frame, what is for loop, what is list dictionary, and what is string and string manipulation, what is function, what is I think classes is not required, but you can learn function, what is string and string manipulation, list and dictionary, loop, and data frame. Only these 5 to 4 things are required for a data engineer. Okay, if you can learn these things, or maybe I can have a session on that one, but these are basics part which we'll cover with the PySpark also. But as soon as we start our fabric from the, like, let's suppose we start our fabric session from after like 1 week, till then you can learn at least these things like function, string, string manipulation, list and dictionary, loop, and what is data frame. Okay, and for SQL, as I've discussed about like creating tables and all that stuff. Now I'll come to the part, what is fabric. So fabric is a all-in-one analytical solution which provide functionalities from data engineering to data science to AI. Everything is at one place. Okay. So earlier we have Synapse, which also provides kind of a feature using this. So let me go to my whiteboard. So earlier this was called as only Power BI, where you can build your kind of data sets and reports, and some data flow gen 2 was support, data flow gen 1 was supported, and some paginated reports and other was supported. Okay, but main was building data sets and report. So in this Power BI we connect to different data sources and we get the data either using different modes, import, direct mode, then we build the reports, and that when we segregate it to data sets and reports. Okay, now we have like Microsoft added functionality of Synapse in Power BI and some AI features also. So this Synapse was Azure Synapse, which has capabilities of ADF plus Azure Data Factory, okay, which is an ETL or ELT2. Then we have Lakehouse also was there, Warehouse also was there. This was dedicated also, plus you can create your own kind of a data warehouse. Okay, then we have Azure Data Explorer. Now we call it as lakehouse, event house in Fabric. Then we have some things related to machine learning and AI. Okay, which we also have here, and it also provide connectivity to the Power BI. Okay, now this capability has been added into the Power BI and we call it as Fabric. So how it is different from Synapse? So this is one lake. So what is this one lake? One lake, it's similar to your OneDrive, okay, which we have in our system. So OneDrive, if you have seen a concept where, let's suppose there is a user one, for that there is like, for OneDrive will have for the whole organization, there will be only a single OneDrive, user 1, user 2, user 3. Okay, so they will have their different folders inside a OneDrive. Now the user one added some data in this folder. If you want to share this information with the user 2, so the user doesn't need to send it over the email, just provide the access and then it will be able to use it by the other user. Same concept work in the lake, one lake. Okay, I'll come to that part how this concept work. So inside the one lake, we write our KQL lakehouse data in terms of tables, which is delta tables and files, then warehouse data in terms of tables and KQL data. So everything will go inside the one lake. And to get the data into these systems, we use further techniques called data pipeline, data flow gen 2, notebooks, event stream. These are all the techniques to get the data and do the data manipulation. Okay, so if I show you here, you can see data factory, which has data flow gen 2 and data pipeline, Synapse data engineering, which has data warehouse, and this Synapse data science is using the notebook to write ML and AI code. Okay. And Synapse, so okay, this holds lakehouse and this warehouse called this hold warehouse. Okay, and this real-time streaming is uh, event house and KQL database and event streaming. And this Power BI we already have. And this data activator is nothing but whenever you kind of wanted to send an event, let's suppose this in our dashboard, you have built a chart where some values keep on changing and you set a target. And if the value increase or decrease like for that particular targeted value, then you can send an email for that. And data activator can also be used in the event streaming also. Generally we try to use it within the Power BI, but you can also use it in the event streaming pipeline when the values are coming on a real time basis. Okay, so now let me go here, and so we have here, you can see data factory was there, which is your data pipeline and data flow gen 2. Then we have lakehouse, which we call data engineering, and we have notebook also, which we call kind of, you can say, data engineering, which also hold data factory and all that. Then we have warehouse, warehouse, and here you can write T-SQL and all that. Then we have event like streaming, event streaming. Okay. So how this is all the things which are like kind of used to get the data from different sources, then write the data to the lake warehouse and KQL database. So this the thing which will hold the data will be your lakehouse, warehouse, and KQL database. And other than that, everything is which is being used. Okay, this will hold the data into your one lake. And everything which is you like either data pipeline, data flow gen 2, notebook, or event streaming, those are the services which can take the data from different sources, do the manipulation, and write the data either to the KQL database, to the warehouse, or to the lakehouse. And that data will be stored in the one lake in in delta table and in Parquet format. Okay, and how this is Microsoft Fabric is different from Synapse, or okay, so we'll come to that part now. Suppose this is one lake, so we have a concept called workspace. I'll come to that part. Okay, so you can see this is a top level hierarchy in Fabric. Okay, So let's suppose you have a workspace W1, W2, W3. So on this workspace, one team is working T1. On this workspace, one team is working, which is T2. On this workspace, one team is working T3. Okay. So they have their items inside the workspace. You can have lakehouse, multiple lakehouse, L2, multiple warehouse also. And okay. And here you have again lakehouse and their warehouse. They also have KQL database. Okay. And then they have L4 lakehouse, W5 and W6 warehouse. Now let's suppose this team like T2 teams ask T1 teams like we want to have the access of your data of which is in like they ask for some data from the T1. Now the T1 has that particular data in this L2 lakehouse. So what they can do, they can simply provide the access to the team T2 team user to the lakehouse L2 on a specific table or maybe okay on a specific table, not to the whole lakehouse. If this team is asking for like the whole lakehouse, like the in the inside the lakehouse you can have the schemas also. Okay, so let's suppose if I have some schema, so the team is asking to get some data from this team one, and team one can provide the access. Okay, to team 2 what and the data is getting stored in one lake. So for this the data is getting stored in one lake. So now without any data movement, team 2 can access the data of team 1. Team 2 can access the data of team 1. What I mean is they don't need to build any data pipeline, okay, to move the data from here to here for workspace 1 to workspace 2. No data pipeline is required. Okay, only access is required if they provided the access. And then how you can use it, let's suppose if I have lakehouse one in which I want to use in L2, so just create a shortcut. Okay, so into the L3, go here, create a shortcut, then you will be able to see all the data of L1 lakehouse here, and you can write your PySpark code over it. You can write SQL query, you can write Spark SQL also. Okay, so you can see no data movement happen between here and there. We just provide only the access, and this is just working as like a OneDrive. Okay, so data is at one place, you can just provide the access and then different teams can use the data. Now after getting the data through shortcut, so you can do transformations over this data, then you can load it for your purpose. Okay, this you can for your purpose, but this data which the team 2 is using is lying in this lakehouse only, not here. You just created a shortcut and you will be able to get the access of this L1 warehouse, L1 lakehouse. Okay, in the same way, the team 1 is asking for some data from T2 which is in their warehouse, they can provide the access and they can access through shortcut. Okay, and in the same way, this works in the same way for like here and there, you can move the data without any data, building the data pipeline to move the data here and there. Okay, so in Synapse, you can do that, but you need external tables for that. So let's suppose if I have Synapse workspace 1 and then we have a Synapse workspace 2. Okay, so they write some data into the manage table, then you can't access it. But if you created some external table, that will be stored in some ADLS location, from that location they can access it. Like okay, but the main difference between Synapse and Fabric is Synapse is your PaaS system and this is your SaaS, software as a service, platform as a service. This is a Synapse. and this is a Microsoft Fabric. So what's the difference between them is, and this part, this part which we had discussed, it remove data silos. So what exactly this is, like whenever any team, like earlier, whenever any team need the data, they need to move the data here and there through data pipelines, which take lot of time. So now you don't need to move the data here and there, just take the data from another team. So let's suppose if I take an example, one more example I'll take. Okay, uh, workspace, workspace, lakehouse, okay. Now let's suppose there was some SAP system and there is some NetShoot system or maybe any other system. I'll just taking random example. This team have taken some data, or okay, and from this team they have taken some data, and suppose there are different domains also, like D1 data, D2, D3. Okay, so let me take an example of only one. So let's suppose they have 100 tables here. So some tables was consumed by, at the starting the team one, they started pulling those 100 tables here. Okay. Now the team two also required the data from the SIP. So rather than going to the source, going to the source, what this data is inside our company only. So okay, what this can do, they can ask to the team one to provide the access. So you can provide the access simply, and they can use the data from here. They don't need to get the data from the source again, and here also they don't need to move the data here again. No move data movement, just shortcut and get the data done. Okay, now how it is different from Synapse. So Synapse, as I discussed, Synapse as a platform as a service, and Microsoft Fabric is a software as a service. What I mean is everything is available as a software. You don't need to kind of connect different services. Like suppose here we have ADF, ADLS, and then others. So I need to create, like to I need to connect these services through link services and all that. Let's suppose if I have yeah, connect these services and all that. I need to manage connections and all that. And here you don't need to do it. So this, like this lakehouse and like lakehouse and warehouse and everything, for that, if I'm trying to use it inside the data pipeline, let's suppose inside the data pipeline I want to use this L1, I don't need to create a connection. That is already done. Okay, which we'll discuss in detail. Okay, so here we need to do all lot of stuff related to the platform, like connecting different services with each other. But here all the services are integrated automatically. All the services are integrated with each other, whether it's a data pipeline, lakehouse, warehouse, data flow, gen 2, and all that. All the services are integrated. You just choose the connections. Not there, no need to create the connections for the inbuilt, like lakehouse, warehouse. Obviously, you need to build the connection for like Azure SQL DB, which is outside of this fabric, or Oracle, or maybe NetShoot, okay, or maybe SAP. For that, you need to build the connection, which is outside of the fabric. But the thing which is in fabric, whether it's a lakehouse, warehouse, KQL database, the connection is already set up. You just need the access to that connection. You can directly uh, use it. So things are integrated with each other. Here, we need to create connections. We need to manage those connections. We need to integrate services with each other. So there are a lot of things which we need to do. We need to kind of build, like kind of create an ADF workspace and then kind of integrate that. So there are a lot of things which you need to do in Synapse, okay, which you don't require in Fabric. Okay, so that's the difference between Fabric and Synapse, and the uses of Fabric, which we have already discussed. This is the main use of the Fabric, where you don't need to copy the data again and again. Okay, now let me go here and just show you the platform fabric looks like. So once you open, let me go here. So once you open the fabric, this will look like this. Okay. So as I was discussing about the workspaces, so you will have workspaces. Okay. You can create your workspace, and inside that you will have the items. You can see items can be data pipeline, data flow, Gen 2, Gen 1, event streaming, notebook, lakehouse, warehouse. So all these are the different items. And you can have multiple workspaces also, just like I had the multiple workspaces. Okay. So before going further, as this is a demo, okay. So we'll add one more thing which we can add later also uh, about the lakehouse, warehouse. Okay. So what's the difference between them? So add so earlier we have like Oracle database, SQL database, which uses relational tables. Okay, where you can like insert, update, delete, and all that stuff you can do. Then we add a requirement for building like big data systems where we need huge amount of real time of data, which these systems can handle. So we have data lake, okay, which uses the cheap storage like ADLS or block storage or S3 locations and all that, which store the data into the like containers, or you can say folders, like in terms of files and Fargate files. Generally, like we have Fargate files which store the data, where you can just simply append the data and read the data. No data manipulation was required. No data manipulation you can't do here. Okay, in data lake, no data manipulation was uh, allowed. Then we come for a concept where we can add the functionality of this data lake as well as relational database. So we build a lake house for that. Okay, which added the capabilities of relational tables plus data lake. So this which we did using the delta tables. So this delta tables store the data just like relational tables, but under the hood they use Parquet tables. Okay, and everything is allowed. Watch what has been allowed to the relational table, but there are some limitations which like kind of can't create primary key, foreign key, that kind of stuff. But as with improvements is happening, maybe in future we'll be able to do it. So on this data table you can do DML operations as well. So in lakehouse you will see one things, you will have folders also, you can store files also. Okay, so this provide the functionalities of both. Okay, you can have the files also store, tables also store. And this warehouse is nothing but you can build it on top of your databases. Like, so we have OLTP systems and we have OLAP systems. Okay, so these are transactional database. Okay, these are operational database which store data, historical data, which is used to have historical data, and this is we use for transactional data. Okay, and warehouse is like distributed systems which we can build, like which is use the compute and storage. You can add kind of horizontally, like whenever you need, you can kind of add horizontally. And in this olaf systems, we add kind of vertical storage, okay, which where we can't kind of distribute the queries over the network. So here we can distribute the queries over the network because it contains historical data, it has a lot of data, so we need to distribute those queries over to different nodes and then they can get data. So this is, I just provided you the high level idea which we'll discuss in detail when we are going to start our session. And the most main part is on like this fabric, okay, providing the idea of the fabric, why we need it, and how it is different from synapse as we discussed. Okay, so as we, like, suppose if we start a session, so we'll cover everything's in detail about these, okay, these topics which we discussed. So this is what I'm like kind of providing, like I've already provided to. You can see I can just go through here SQL endpoints and just data Spark also. I'm providing everything in details and not going through just PPT only. I'm we are doing the hands-on also. Okay, for all of these things, writing more schema evaluation, cache processing. Okay, so we are doing all the hands-ons. Then we have Power BI also. Then we have warehouse also. Okay, then we have streaming also. Okay, this we will do everything in detail. So this is KQL. Okay, yeah. So if you have any questions, like, and one more thing before ending, one more thing which I wanted to add. So this is only for data engineer and data architect. So let's suppose if you have like 4 to 5 or like maybe less than 10, 8 years of experience, so you can expect working as a data engineer, like a fabric data engineer. And if you have more than like 8 years or 10 years of experience, you can work as a data architect, like by after learning this course, how you can build the whole architect, and then how you can show it to the, like, the client or to the or the product owners and all that. Okay, anyone have any question? If not, then we can conclude it, and hoping to connect with you soon.